Kitchen Kings and Queens. Okay, today is the day we are going to make roast chicken. And it couldn't come at a better time because I have a bit of a cold. So there's nothing more comforting than a roast chicken. Okay, so we're gonna do this in a very French way. Okay, I'm using Julia Child's recipe as a base, but I've added my own couple spins onto it. Okay, so one of my spins is that this chicken has been marinating overnight in buttermilk. Okay, so if you've ever had one of those chickens from Costco or one of those box stores, okay, the key to getting that nice brown skin and that nice juicy interior is buttermilk. Buttermilk is really, it's chicken's best friend. It's what you use when you make fried chicken. It just tenderizes it. Okay, so what I did was I took that chicken and I just marinated it in the buttermilk overnight. Okay, I'm gonna take that out and put it on this platter here. And then we're gonna do what we need to do to get it ready for the rotisserie. Okay, so first thing we wanna do is get a little paring knife here and do some cleaning and some removal of some things. So there's this little piece, these little tips of the wings. Those don't look nice and they flop around. So we're going to take them off of both sides. Okay, so that's the first little surgery that we're going to do. Okay. And we're doing something a little different here too. We're going to use a very unique thing here. We're gonna, I'm also gonna, there's a big chunk of fat here. You know we're not gonna get rid of that fat, okay? Because that will provide quite a bit of rendered fat for us. So we're gonna keep that. There's some other little pieces of fat here. So we're going to take that out as well. Now there's a little flappy piece there that we're going to keep, okay, because we want to make sure that that is holding everything into the cavity, okay. Then we're going to flip this around here, okay. Got a little bit more fat here, okay. So we're going to trim off some of that fat too. And the back here, we have the wishbone. Okay, so in order to carve this chicken a little bit better, we're gonna take out that wishbone. Okay, and that's going to allow, when we carve the chicken, to carve it a little bit better. Okay, so we're just going to go around the wishbone here and we're going to cut it out, and that will free up the breast meat to be cut a little bit better. Okay, so there's the wishbone, took that out. Sometimes there's a little extra neck here. Looks like a little bit here. So we're gonna kind of take that and get that out a little bit. And that will make it just a little bit better. I'm gonna try and get in between the vertebrae here to kind of do that. there's that. Okay? So, now, if we were going to truss this, which we're not going to truss, we're going to use something called the turbo trusser. Okay, and this is something I got recently, and it's just something I'm looking to try. Okay, so what it is it is this little device here. So it's a piece of metal that you use to kind of hook your chicken legs to. Okay, then you're going to take these little hooks here. You gotta kind of feed them through, and they are going to clip on. You're going to use them to hook onto the wings. Okay? Just kind of put them into there so that they kind of stay. And we'll just tuck them underneath. Okay? This way, when we are roasting the chicken, it's going to keep it all together. Okay? In a very nice way. And then we could also just kind of remove this when we're done. Now, this may get in the way of the spit, okay? So, I still have my cavity open. And we're going to wash my hands for a second so that I could prepare the stuff to add into the chicken cavity. Okay? So, one of the things is butter, okay? I'm just going to put this whole piece of butter into the cavity, okay? What that's going to do is that's going to roll around and fill the cavity, moisturize it, and baste it from the inside. I'm also going to cut up a shallot, okay, and some garlic, okay. So you got the clove of garlic here, and we're just gonna cut the garlic clove in half. And stuff it in there, okay, with the butter. So we have garlic, we have butter, and now we're gonna cut up a little shallot here, okay. Now, I wish I had some fresh versions of these herbs, okay? Unfortunately, I do not have any fresh parsley, fresh tarragon, or fresh lemon, okay? So usually I also put a lemon in there, okay? Because lemon, it's not going to make the chicken taste lemony. You can make lemon chicken, okay? There are things you can do to make lemon chicken. But that's not really what we're going for here. We're just going for this stuff. Is just to kind of, it's just to kind of season the meat, okay? And I'm going to take a little bowl here, and I'm going to put the herbs in the bowl. Okay, so I'm going to put some parsley in there. Again, please do yourself a favor and get fresh parsley. I'm going to put some tarragon in there. Okay, tarragon has a very lovely licoricey taste and flavor. Okay, that's really French. It's a very, very French herb, and it's very, very delicious. I'm going to take some fresh chives because those I actually do have as a fresh herb. And I'm just going to cut them up. Again, this is just seasoning, okay? It's just going to roll around in that cavity. So you are not showcasing your knife skills here. You are just adding a couple flavorful things into the cavity so that there is seasoning, okay? And that's our herb mixture, okay? Now, you can put whatever herbs you want. You like rosemary? I hate rosemary. Add rosemary if you like it. I don't. Thyme I like. But thyme is a very overpowering herb. I think that, unless you really want those overpowering herbs, you can. These are very flavorful herbs, okay? And they all are kind of, with the exception of the with the exception of the, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. The exception of the tarragon, they're all kind of similar. Like they're like these fresh, oniony herbs, okay? So I added my salt in there, and I'm also now adding in some cracked pepper, okay? I also would add a lemon, a full lemon, just kind of wedged up if I had it. Unfortunately, I don't. I really thought I had a lemon, but I don't. So that's okay. It's still going to be delicious. Okay, so we're just going to mix up these herbs. Okay, and then we're going to open up. We're going to lift up the chicken here. Open up this cavity a little bit. And we're going to dump in these herbs. Okay, and because I have all that big stuff in there, I'm just going to kind of make sure it all gets distributed throughout here, okay? And it's gonna be great. This is gonna really flavor the inside of the chicken, and it's also going to flavor the gravy that we're going to make from the drippings, okay? So I'm just gonna pull that back. I'm gonna try and tuck these wings underneath the turbo thruster, which it's called, so that way they really don't flop around. Okay, this one I'm just tuck under. Okay. So as you can see now, it's all together, okay? Now, that is not it, and oh, that's right. A lot of washing your hands when you're doing this, because you don't want to cross-contaminate the things that you're using. You don't want to cross-contaminate things that you're cutting with, so I'm going to put this back in there. And there's something else that I want here. Okay, so when Julia Child makes her, I'm going to do a modification of her idea here. She did this rendered bacon, which I did, okay, because I had this bacon. Instead of, she would put it on the outside so that it maintained moisture on the skin. I'm going to pop it on the inside, okay? And I'm going to leave that as the last thing so that it kind of acts as a little barrier here for all the other stuff, okay? And then we're just going to kind of close this all in, and that'll be that. Okay, that's the interior. Okay. Then we're going to take some of this softened butter that I have. Okay. And I'm going to take like a nice chunk of it and put it in there. And I'm just going to kind of massage it into the skin here of this bird, okay? And even though it's softened, it still needs to, in order to be really spreadable, you gotta kind of warm it up with your hands. Okay, so we're going to just rub this butter all over the breast of the chicken. Okay, and notice like the biggest part of the breast, I kind of left almost like a butter armor on there. Okay, that's so that as this thing spins, it will turn that butter over top of that breast so it won't dry out. Okay. All right, there we go. I think that's good. Now, nothing will be wasted. You may think, oh my God, that beautiful, expensive butter. You're going to be wasting all that. No, we're not wasting it because it's going on the rotisserie here. And the rotisserie has a catch pan at the bottom. And at that catch pan, that's where the juices go, okay? So, now we're going to prepare the rotisserie. Okay, we have this great spit here. We're going to plug our rotisserie into the stove or into the outlet, and that's for the heating element, okay? We want to get the heating element going and get that started with, okay? Then once the chicken is on the spit, then we will be able to sure that this heating element is working. Okay, well, we'll leave that. I'm gonna unplug this. Okay, well, we'll deal with that in a second. All right, so we are going to start with the rear end, okay? We're going to take our chicken and we're going to make sure that we get this spit through chicken cavity. Okay. Now we got a lot of stuff in here, so you got to be careful not to dislodge that stuff while getting the spit through. Okay, we got our spit, and then we're going to put that in the end. And you know what I'm noticing here? It looks like there's a hole for the spit here. So we're going to position it so that the spit goes through this hole. Okay? And then behind us, we're going to tuck that piece in. Okay, we got our chicken here. We want to ruin our skin, so we're going to put that in. And then we're going to put our, oh, look at that. See, they thought of everything. I was really worried when I got this thing because I like to use the rotisserie. Okay? So, but it looks like they designed this truss master so that it would go right through that part. So that's great. All right, so I'm gonna clear off this. Make sure it's nice and clean. And also, before we put that in there, we're going to wash my hands again. We're just going to put some salt and pepper over top of this chicken. Okay. Nice, generous coating. Okay. Same thing with our salt here. Alright, we're going to put our chicken on our spit here and run it into the motor. Okay, and I think I just want to drop this down a little bit so that it's as close to the heating element as it can be without burning. Okay, so we'll check and make sure, and then we'll be back in a couple hours when this chicken is done. Okay, bye for now, Kitchen Kings and Queens. Hi, Kitchen Kings and Queens. Okay, I bet you didn't think that this turkey was, or this chicken was going to be done. You probably thought, oh, he was having trouble with that heating element. It was going to have to go in the oven. Well, guess what? if you didn't see the other video that I posted, I explained this. What I found out when I was mangling with it off camera is that there is a little, there's clips that hook into the frame here. Oh, it's hot. And the clips were going the wrong way. So the heating element needed to be turned upside down, and that way it got into the right contacts to make the heating element work. Let me tell you, this thing is going hot, hot, hot. Okay, so we are good now. So we're going to unplug our heating element, and now we're going to unplug our rotisserie, because I temped our chicken, and poultry needs to be at 165 to be safe. So it is at all the different places I tested. So in the leg, in the breast, in the thigh, it was all well above that. Okay, so we're gonna take it off the spit. Well, first we're gonna take the spit off of the rotisserie. Okay, so I turned it off, and now we're gonna put it onto this platter. Okay, and this is a roasting platter. So let me pick this up and show you first. Okay, you can see there's these little channels in there. Okay, and let's just do the check here. There's these little channels in there that will tell you, or that will collect the juices. Okay, so we're going to untruss all this stuff, and then we're going to just let it rest. Okay, so I'm going to start by taking out the fork here, and there's that. And then we're going to, I'm going to use a roasting fork here, and we're just going to kind of try and, actually, this fork on the back of the rotisserie is disconnected. Okay, so we want to kind of ease it off of the chicken here. Okay, and then we have our string. So this is something that I had to do. So this trussing turbo trusser, this did work very well. Okay, the only problem with it was it did kind of start pulling away from the turbo trusser. So we're going to take them off, and then we'll take off the turbo trusser. Okay, on the interior we're going to take out all of that stuff that was in there. Okay, and we're going to make sure that that is all removed. Okay, we have a lot of juices here in the pan. Okay, and this is what we're going to use to make our gravy. Okay, we're also going to make a little side dish that comes from choc pepin. Okay, which is, and this side dish, it's right up my alley, because basically what you do is you use the chicken drippings and you use it with the some Gruyere cheese in some of the shell pasta, okay, and then a little bit of chives. So it's just chicken, 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 chicken. The flavors just kind of all interconnect. Okay, so I'm gonna go and disconnect this all, and then we'll come back and we'll make the gravy. We'll carve this up, and we'll do all of the final preparation before we eat this. Okay, Kitchen Kings and Queens, we are back. And for honesty's sake, I'm going to tell you that I put this chicken back on the spit. Mainly because there was this one little area that wasn't browned. So just to make it really have a nice uniform color, I wanted to make sure that it got done. Okay, so that I have to say is a little, I added it on for a little bit longer. Okay, and this thing is just perfect. It is just ready to be carved. So I'm going to show you also just a couple additional side dishes that I made. Both of these side dishes are not mine, so I will link where I got them so you could see the videos for those sides, okay? When I show you this chicken, okay? So we're gonna take out all of this wonderful aromatics that we put in there, and we're gonna put that out here, okay? And we'll clean up this plate before we serve. But this stuff really did its job. It's given the chicken a delicious taste on the interior. It seasoned the juices that we are going to use to make the gravy, and it's just perfect. So I think I may actually use these in the gravy too. Okay, I may just put them in there. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I carve this chicken. Okay, so we're going to cut here, and we're just going to cut a side here. Oh man, this is just like, it's the most perfect type of chicken. Okay, so that just takes out the thigh and the leg. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing on this side. Okay, I'm going to put it down there, cut that. Flip it over, and we're going to cut off this thigh and leg. And you could see it's just, I don't even have to cut it, it's just coming off. Okay, so then we're going to cut off the wings. Okay, and that, again, you can just kind of break them off from the back here. Okay, so there's our two wings. Okay, then we have the breast here. Okay, now remember, we cut out that wishbone. Normally we would be dealing with this wishbone while you're cutting out this breast. We don't have to worry about that because we cut that out. So we have this nice whole breast that we can separate from the carcass. Okay? Look at that. Oh my God, that's beautiful. And it's very, very juicy. It's all nice and delicious. And perfect. Okay? I mean, it's just, it's falling off the bones here. It's kind of hard to kind of keep it because of the bones. All right. And then we have the other breast on the other side. again. This chicken is just, it's rich, it's juicy, it's perfect. So I'm gonna prepare a platter now. We're gonna take off all those herbs and all of that delicious interior. We're gonna rinse this platter off. We don't need to get it all off, but we just want it to look nice. Okay, and then we're gonna place our legs and thighs on the side here. Okay, we'll put the wing next to that. Okay, and we'll put the breast meat sliced in the middle. Okay, so I'm gonna do this one, and then I'll leave the other one whole because it's just me. So it's not. I'm not doing this for a whole group of people. Okay. So that one beautiful breast. And this one, which we will separate from the other side here. That one we'll just leave whole. Okay. And there you have it. And there is extra meat on here, so you can cut that meat. The one video that I'm gonna link in here, the one with the Jacques Pepin, that he actually cut the chicken and then reincorporated the segments into the chicken. So kind of like put it back together. And I think that's a really beautiful way to present it as well. But this, if you want to like serve it, I think this way just is a little bit more friendly. The way that he was talking about, that way is if you're going to carve it in the dining room. So that would be kind of a more dramatic presentation. On the bottom here, these little pieces, these are called the oysters, okay, because they look like a little oyster. And they are the most tender meat on the chicken. Okay, they're just these little succulent pieces of meat. They're my absolute favorite. There's also some very rich meat down here that you can take off as well. And that is all really delicious meat. It's very, very fatty down here, this meat, and it's very rich and very delicious. So you could add that on there. And then you're not going to get rid of this because tomorrow, or maybe not tomorrow, sometime this week, I'm going to show you how to make stock from this. So we're going to use the turkey carcass, which I've roasted and kind of set aside, and this chicken carcass, and I have another chicken carcass to make a delicious homemade poultry stock. Okay, so don't ever get rid of this stuff. Okay, this is all very delicious, very good for you food. Okay, and this will allow you to get more out of this chicken. And these are expensive. Okay, if you go to anywhere, even like a regular old grocery store, and you try and get a rotisserie chicken, it's cheaper than buying a whole chicken, okay? But you're getting so much more with this, okay? You get the gizzards, which I made for the dog and cat. You get all kinds of really, really useful things here. I got fat that we rendered, and it's all good stuff. Okay, so don't get rid of, don't think that you're spending more money on something. You're spending more money to get this and to get all the other things. Okay, so there is the chicken, all carved up, all ready. So we'll come back at one point later and I'll show you all the sides. I'll show you this in the dining room and I'll prepare my dinner. Bye, Kitchen Geeks. Okay, I'm going to explain to you what I did with the gravy here. Okay, so what I did was I took all of the pan drippings from the rotisserie and I put them in a little separator. I took out some of the fat that was in there and I set it aside and I used it with a tablespoon of flour, a tablespoon of fat and a tablespoon of flour, and I cooked it in the bottom of the pan to make a roux. Okay, then I put in the things that we had in the cavity of the chicken, okay, which was the shallots, the garlic, the tarragon, the chives, and butter, and the rendered bacon. So the bacon was cooked in a little bit of water so that it got rid of the smoky and the saltiness. Okay, so it's really just kind of pork fat at this point. And the parsley. Okay, so those are what is left in the cavity. Okay, so I'm cooking that now, and the juices which I added to that roux. Okay, I'm going to add in a little bit of red wine here. Okay, just like about a half a cup. Okay, that's going to richen the gravy. It's going to really make it taste good. It's a very good wine. It's a type of wine that I drink and that I will probably have a glass of with this meal. It's called a Beaujolais, which is a French wine. It's very, very tasty. Okay, so I'm about ready to take out these pieces, okay, because they won't thicken, the gravy won't thicken until we put in until the mixture becomes a boil. Okay, so I'm just gonna take all this stuff out. Probably should use a slotted spoon, but that's okay. We have our little skimmer here. Okay, and we're putting all of the solids in there. You want to get them out of there so that when and it's coming very close to being at a boil. When it comes to a boil, it will thicken. Okay, in fact, you know what I'm going to do to make sure that we get everything? I'm going to bring this cup back over. This is the cup I use, and I'm going to turn it over here. Okay, I'm going to pour the rest of this into there. Okay, I want to make sure that it all goes into that cup. Okay, and knock that off. Back to our pan here. Let me pour that in. Okay, and then I'm just gonna leave this just kind of shaking it so we get all of the juice out. Okay, and then once this comes to a boil, you'll see it will thicken up. Okay, and that's what we're looking for. Okay, now we are not going to get rid of this stuff. We're going to use this in our stock. We're going to make our stock. So we'll leave that with our chicken. Okay, I need to take, actually I'm going to put a little bit of this. This is pasta water. Okay, so one of the other little side dishes I'm going to do is a pasta side. So that's going to go through a colander, and then hand colander here, and then I'm going to put that back in there. Now the wine has already made this so much more rich. Okay, you could really smell that. Okay, and it's starting to boil. We'll turn it up a little bit, and you'll see it will start to thicken. Okay, and we're gonna both thicken it, and we're also gonna reduce it. So by cooking it longer and letting all this water evaporate, we'll get more concentrated flavor. Okay, so that's how I make my gravy. It now has all that delicious flavor from all those things, so it's really gonna kind of thicken up and get delicious. Okay, kitchen kings and queens, here's our gravy boiling up. Okay, so as you could see, it's getting thicker and it's more of like a pan sauce now. And the longer we kind of let that go, the more thickened it will get. Okay, so I'll show you the final product of everything now. Hi, kitchen kings and queens. Okay, we're ready to eat. Okay, so the two side dishes I made was Jacques Pepin's shells with Gruyere. It's like kind of a macaroni and cheese, but it's really not. It's more of just pasta tossed with cheese. The other one I made was from another YouTube page that I love called Cavalcade of Food. It's their version of potatoes au gratin, and it looks incredible. This is not ready for me to eat yet. It needs to sit for a couple minutes. I also made just a very simple potato puree, and I'm just gonna put that down as the base for my chicken. Okay, I just had a couple potatoes left over, was craving mashed potatoes, and I just figured I would make that. And I'm gonna use kind of the less beautiful slices of chicken. They are still equally good, but they are just kind of the leftover pieces, just so that I can keep this nice presentation. Okay, so I'm going to put them over top of the potato puree, and I'm going to put a little bit of my delicious gravy that I made. Alright, and it's just a very, very, very light, simple pan sauce. Okay, it's not like a heavy, thick gravy. It's got that wine in there, the residual herbs, and all that. And then I'm going to take some of the Jacques Pepin shells, and this pasta is my favorite. I love Gruyere, I love chives, I love chicken, love a hearty, cozy meal on a cool day. And this just hit the spot. When this cools down, I'll take some of that as well. And this is a very comforting meal, okay? This is not a light meal. This is not an everyday meal. This is a meal that's special. It's a dinner. It's a special family dinner. It's a make yourself feel good meal. And it's just pretty much anything that you want to treat yourself and feel really nice and special. Now, many people may be saying, why did you do this? You're not feeling well. You are, nobody is over for dinner, so it's just you. Why did you go to all this trouble? Well, a couple reasons. One, I felt better, so I wanted to do it. Two, I think doing these things for yourself is self-care, and they make you feel good about yourself. Sure, I could have gone to Giant or Acme or Costco and got a rotisserie chicken, cut it up like this. I could have got the homemade sides from the hot foods counter there, and I could have had a very similar meal. But it wasn't made by me. It wasn't special. It wouldn't feel as special as this does. The effort it takes to make a meal like this is part of the reward. And I like to cook. Some people don't like to cook. Some people are learning to like to cook. So it may not be something that most people would consider something that they enjoy. But for me, I enjoy it, and I'm enjoying sharing my videos with you. I'm enjoying sharing this meal with you, and I enjoy making it. I'll put a little picture in there of the dishes. The dishes are overflowing the sink. So it's not a small effort to put something like this together. As you can see, I also have my candles. I took out some nice silverware and the serving pieces. Again, using my coordinating corn flour that I love so much. All these things are things that I love. So they're just making this meal more enjoyable for me. That may not be the case for you, but for me, this is an enjoyable experience. Even if it's just for me. It's telling myself that I love myself enough to put the effort in to make that meal for myself. So do whatever you love to do for yourself as well. Okay, even if there's nobody else here. Now, is this chicken going to be eaten all by me today? No, this is pretty much all I'm going to eat, if that. So this chicken will last me all week long. I'll be able to eat it in a multitude of different ways. I may bring some in to my friends at work. I may invite some friends over to have some or take some. So, it's not just going to be eaten by me too, but all of these things are really nice ways to share your love of food and your passion with others. Okay? So don't be afraid to do this if this is what you like. If people don't get it, that's their problem. Okay? I've never cared what other people think, and I'm certainly not going to start now. But, just do things that make you happy, even if people don't get them. I mean, I'm sure most people wouldn't get wanting to eat a very intricate meal that took me 5 hours to cook by myself. But I thought they don't have to get it, okay? I get it, and I understand it, and I love it. And I hope you do too. So, bye for now, Kitchen Kings and Queens. Bon appetit, and I hope that you have a great week ahead. Bye.